So good afternoon. It's my pleasure to introduce you to the next panel that will focus on the role of innovation in the energy industry and how innovation is about a global ecosystem. I am very happy to welcome our panelists today. So please let me introduce them. So Ghanshyam Deshpande, President from Technology and Engineering in the Praj Industry. Thank you for being with us. Ganesh Ramaswamy, EVP of Industrial Energy Technologies at Baker Hughes. Thank you for being with us. Rakesh Jaggi, President of Digital and Integration in SLB. Thank you. And Haresh Bhere, CTO of Reliance BP Mobility. Thank you very much. So, if we think of the ever-changing world in energy, innovation has been one of the key success factors in our industry. So, maybe Rakesh, you could, as a warm-up, remind us how innovation has been important within Schlumberger and also within the whole energy industry to help us overcome all the hurdles that we have encountered and how it has helped us to pivot until the energy transition.
Thank you, Gail. It's a pleasure to be here. I think, a significant portion of the world that has nothing to do with our industry doesn't realize what an exciting industry this is to work with. Right? Think about it like this. You are drilling a well, you're actually directionally drilling a well, 5-6 kilometers down the Earth's surface, and you have to hit a square of 1 by 1 meters, and you have to do it accurately. It's better than, going to space, or almost as exciting as going to space, or, it's significantly more complex than flying an airplane, for example. So clearly, what we do in our industry is one of the most exciting, one of the most innovative solutions that mankind has come up with, which has actually fueled the economy of the world for more than a century now. So innovation forms the bedrock of what we do. We've been a cash-rich industry, and because of the fact, before the cloud and the tech companies became popular, we were the largest companies in the world by a far margin. So we didn't have to sell ourselves. We haven't done as good a job in marketing ourselves or having to sell ourselves, which is why maybe a large portion of the global population doesn't understand what an exciting and innovative industry we are. Now, coming to the SLB family, or formerly called Schlumberger, our foundation is based out of innovation, right? The SLB brothers, as the story goes, the Schlumberger brothers, Schlumberger is a family, from a French family. They actually borrowed money from their father, and the father made them write a contract that you will not spend this money for commercial pursuits. As long as you do it for pure science, I will support you. And of course, as soon as the old man, shall I say, left the planet, I think the family, or the Schlumberger company was formed, and of course we've done very well from there on. I would say the fundamental basis of what the father wanted the sons to focus on has been the driving factor of what we've done as a company, which means we've been associated with fundamental physics. We've got basic R&D, shall I say, completely out of the based on the first principles of science. R&D is what we've associated ourselves with many, many years. We came up with the concept of logging for the industry, which helps you find oil and gas in different parts of the world. In any producing basin, for most of I would say, most countries, we probably were the pioneers in helping you find oil and gas, and we are very thankful to all the oil-producing countries for the presence we have today. Over the years, we have, like many other companies, then ventured into many other fields as well, integrated ourselves, and now provide a very broad spectrum of services. As the industry demands, we were focused on scientific pursuits. Then we started to focus on making sure you come up with fit-for-purpose technology, which is, shall I say, the rightly priced as well. And of late, probably the most exciting thing, and the one that I'm personally very excited about, because that's the part that I'm involved in now, is the digital transformation of the industry. It is a low-hanging fruit. What you read in the books, or what is sci-fi, as the rest of the world will call it. I'm talking about, running autonomous operations in the middle of nowhere. Because you're able to do everything on the edge by using cloud compute, you don't have to send humans in harm's way. I'll give you an example which, we just had a press release last week, maybe the rest of the world hasn't heard about. We drilled a deep water rig in offshore Brazil for 60 hours continuously without any human intervention. So we are talking about in the middle of nowhere, we have a rig running which is drilling a very significant portion of the section. We are talking about almost 2,000 meters without any human intervention for 60 long hours. So my point is, as the industry has ventured into new spaces, whether we talk about deep water, whether we talk about the unconventionals, our company and the larger part of the industry as well has continued to innovate, and this will stay the bedrock of our success in the long-term future as well. And I hope our business of digital will contribute significantly more going forward too.
Thank you. And if we look ahead, if we think of all the future challenges that we will have in the energy, or all the challenges that we are not able to solve today, Ganesh, could you please tell us how you see innovation as a tool, as a mandatory tool that will enable us to continue progress and where?
Thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here in Goa, and also a pleasure to be here with this very impressive panel. So, before I get into the specifics on innovation, let me give you some perspective. The perspective I would share is that if you look at the energy transition, in order to solve the energy transition, we have to solve what is known as the energy trilemma. And the energy trilemma is basically that energy has to be affordable, it has to be reliable, and it has to be sustainable. All three are important in terms of addressing the energy trilemma and therefore the energy transition. So if you look at it that way, a fuel like natural gas will not only be a transition fuel, very likely to be a destination fuel because it's affordable, it's reliable, and it's got a much cleaner fossil fuel footprint compared to other fossil fuels. Now, the role of technology depends on the energy mix. And as the energy mix changes, the technology mix also changes. And so from a technology innovation standpoint, the way you asked it, technology innovation has to address three things. First of all, it has to be suited to support the present energy mix. Second, it also has to support the future energy mix. And third, it has to be aligned with the socio-economic realities of different regions and countries which are going to advance the transition at different periods in time. So an example of that would be, I mentioned about natural gas earlier. So if you look at an illustration of a technology innovation challenge is, how do we then create technologies that can support a natural gas dominated energy system today and also prepare ourselves for an alternative fuel source like hydrogen in the future? So, at Baker Hughes, for example, we have our Nova LT turbines, which are capable of operating all the way from 100% natural gas to 100% hydrogen. These are the kinds of technologies and challenges that we have to address as we navigate the energy transition from the current state to the future state.
Thank you. So, Ghanshyam, we now have spoken about why we need innovation. We spoke about the source of ideation, but it's also important to be able to move from one idea to a pilot to a solution that is scalable and that is commercial. How do you see the role of innovation in this whole journey, and what are the challenges that we have to overcome on this journey?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Gail. It is very important. It's a very important question. Let me take it in a different way. Perhaps it may look negative when I say challenges, because many times challenge is seen as a negative connotation to that. So when we talk about the ecosystem, in most of the organizations, it is the least understood and least focused activity. Because whenever the innovation starts in any R&D center, the R&D happens or the innovation happens around the main core process, and many times, it's knowingly, unknowingly, people tend to forget about how to scale it up or take it to full commercialization. So it is very important to really understand the final goal post, right, for any innovation. Unless you know what is going to be the final deliverables to the end customer, the innovation cannot be complete. So typical challenge here is the mindset itself. There are two technical difficulties. One is a technical, another is a non-technical mindset. People feel R&D generally happens in the, or innovation generally happens in the R&D, but R&D has to happen across the value chain. That's a very, very important thing. It can't be only limited to R&D. That's first thing. Second, when we are carrying out innovation or even the scaling up activity, all the disciplinary scientists or the technologists or engineers should be integral part of this agenda from the day one. Many times in most of the organizations, when an innovation program is defined, only the scientists and technologists, they start working on that, and the engineers or the final who are the experts in delivering the projects, they are left out of this innovation agenda. So for the success of any scale-up or innovation to happen successfully in any organization, it is important to really build a competent team, and the whole team should start from the day one, and they should be very clear about the final mission or the goal post. That's one. Third one is that when we talk about this scale-up, many times we forget about the end-to-end offerings, end-to-end solutions. Always we tend to focus on the very core, the technology part, but all of us should know when we are delivering the final scaled-up product, one should focus on the feedstock, which is very, very critical. I will give example also what we have done in Praj. We are in the biofuel industry. But feedstock plays very, very important role in the whole the ecosystem. Then the second is about technology, and third is about your product and processes, or products, I would say. So this is what we call as the FTP matrix. So as a part of scaling up activity, one should be very clear about these three elements. One is feedstock, another is the technology, and third is the product. I will give you an example. When we started the biofuel industry or bioethanol as a product, the first thing what we started is looking at what kind of a feedstock we can use, right? And today all of you know, I think Praj is offering first generation, second generation, and there are third generation. There are many generations we talk about. There is a fourth generation feedstock. So there is a development even in the feedstock. So we started with the first generation feedstock. We developed our technology on the first generation, which was nothing but the waste stream which was coming out of the sugar mill. Those days it was called as a waste stream, but nowadays it's not a waste stream. But we developed complete technological package and solutions around molasses, for example, as a feedstock. Then we built our strengths on the grain as a feedstock, and subsequently on cellulosic bioethanol. So feedstock plays very, very important role, and it's very important to characterize feedstock, understand feedstock, because if you are not able to understand feedstock, the whole innovation, especially at the scale-up stage, can go completely haywire, right? And so understanding of feedstock is very, very important. Second is about the processes. Now here there are three aspects one should look at when we talk about the scaling up of any process. The first thing is that about the understanding about the process itself in terms of operating parameters. Second is about the equipment scaling up. But the most important piece is about the process optimization and integration. Many times we have seen, I think, in all these advanced technologies which are being offered, they have a lot of troubles in scaling up, mainly because they are not able to really integrate across the value chain. When I'm saying across the value chain, it is not the main process plant. We have to also look at the utility sides, offsites, or even other part of the supply, right? So it is very important to really look at how you can really integrate all those unit operations, and many times most of the technologies on a commercial scale, they have failed mainly because of they are not able to integrate on the plant level. And third, which is most important, is optimization. When I'm saying optimization, today most of the customers or the end customers they are looking at the value-added product. It can't be only single feed, single product. It has to be multi-feed, multi-product. And at the same time, again, in the one of my panelists said it has to be affordable technology, right? The final product has to be available at affordable price at a lower CI, because today, as a part of energy transition, we are talking about innovation for the environment. It's a climate innovation, not the innovation for enhancement of productivity, right? Or earlier, all three innovations or the revolutions which were happened for the enhancement of the productivity. This is the first time there is a change. What is happening is most of the innovations are happening around climate change. So all the innovations, all the outputs, all the result of our innovation should result into carbon intensity reduction and not only the productivity enhancement. If you are able to focus on both, it's nothing like it, but most critical is how we can reduce the carbon intensity in overall processes. So I think these are some of the critical areas. And the last but not least was actually taking into account the effect of the local feedstock or local environment, local infrastructure, local ecosystem. So what is good in India may not be good when you go abroad, especially in the Far East region or in the USA or in Europe. So we should be able to really customize our offering to suit the local conditions wherever we are offering in the any local market. I think these are some of the very important critical aspects of scaling up of technology.
Thank you. And Haresh, we spoke about innovation, the fact that the source of innovation was partnerships, was bringing together different perspectives. We spoke also about the fact that innovation was not uniform and that the needs of different areas, different clients, different geographies could be different. Now, if we think of the partnership between Reliance and BP, it's bringing together a global player that brings experience from all around the world and a player that has a deep understanding of the Indian market. And this player is itself connected with a universe of tech. So how has this generated innovation? How is innovation working in this partnership? And what are the lessons learned from this partnership? Because a lot of the members of the audience could be from one or the other side of a potential partnership. So maybe you could help them.
No, thanks everyone. And thank you for the question, because in a way you have actually put a question such that the answer is in the question itself, where are the strengths coming from. And so what I will do is I would add to what and how part of innovation, what we are doing and how we are doing it. I'll also add a very small portion there, why we are doing it as well. So before starting, very quick, Reliance Jio BP, we operate in two domains. One is the petro retail business and the second one is the EV charging infrastructure business. So now when it comes to innovation and then when we talk about why do we, okay. So for us, innovation is all about, we are solving a real problem by real means. Now when we are doing this, there are fundamental three pillars to any innovative product or solution which you bring. First part is desirability, second part is feasibility, third part is viability. There has to be, whether it is a latent need or an explicit need, there has to be a need. Then the solution, you have to take a solution which is technically feasible. And third part is a solution which is commercially viable. Otherwise, just give me a bigger lever and a fulcrum and I shall move the earth. So that is not the case. We do not have the infinite resources. So within these boundary conditions, we need a solution. That is what a definition of innovation for us is. Now, when it comes to a specific question of BP and Reliance put together, now there are two strengths what we have here. I'll just read. So one most important portion is from our experience, that because BP started in the venture of electrification specifically, I'm talking about now electrification in a very specific, as a very specific example, they started much earlier. So we have some experiences from the global, whatever work we had in the past. And then we have to also apply the local intelligence, because it has been proven over the period of time that India typically needs an Indian specific solution. We can take inspiration from outside, what has worked out, but we have to adapt it, modify it for Indian specific use cases. And this is exactly where the strength of these two organizations, we could actually leverage and use. So now there are multiple dimensions in which we utilize those innovation. One dimension is we utilize those innovations on the product front, because that's where we could take the best available product in the market and more importantly the specifications. Then we could also use the process experiences again from the global operations, and then how do we really scale it here, because that's the core part of whatever we are doing today. The baseline is why we do it. It has to be scalable operation. We are not in this business. We are not in this business to start and have a very minor market share. We are here to make sure whatever we are working, it is scalable, it is sustainable on its own. So and now last part is how we are doing it and how we are using those, that the collaboration what we have and the company culture what we have. 5 or 6 points we have. One is we work very closely with our global team. We have a constant knowledge sharing session with them. We also have workshops with them. Then for Indian operations, again a specific example for the charging ecosystem. In Indian operations, we cannot rely on the global charger suppliers for a very simple reason. If you have a specific requirement in India, because of the initial ticket size what they have, they don't have enough motivation to modify and develop a product which is specific for India. And that is where we have to work with the local OEMs here, and many times those are actually startups. We work with them in a way with our experience and with our process oriented detailed work what we have done. We also mentor them and get the product developed. The third part is our team, the way we have built this team is very, very unique configuration, that the team with respect to the entire diversity, whether it is age, whether it is ethnicity, it's one of the youngest team. The average age of our team is, if I remember the number correctly, somewhere around 28. So that way we have a very good mix of the experienced guys as well as the guys from the EV domain which are quite young. And I think the last part is what we have learned from our experiences is that in this business, innovation and development is one part, but for it to be sustainable, what we really need is develop, validate and deploy. The ratio is really 1:3:5. So we might spend 1 unit of effort for development, 3 unit of effort to make sure it is reliable. So for verification and evaluation, we have to spend that. And because of the scale of operation, the 5 unit of effort in terms of execution. So I think I hope I have not taken too much of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very clear and very inspiring. Now, innovation is about new things. So I have a kind of philosophical question for you, Ganesh. Is there innovation in innovation?
I think you're spot on with that question. Because typically when we think of innovation, we think of innovation outcomes. But there is also a process piece associated with innovation. And it's especially relevant when we think about the energy transition, because during the energy, in traditional environments, solution providers would offer solutions to customers on a transactional basis for specific projects. Now, what we see happening is that solution providers are collaborating or partnering with customers and co-developing innovations. And that's a big shift in the process of innovation. So I can talk about our own experiences within Baker Hughes. For example, we are collaborating with Air Products in their hydrogen value chain on compression and utilization. And we are doing similar collaborative efforts with HIF and Porsche in terms of direct air capture. So those are examples that I would offer from a co-development, collaborative effort towards innovation, making it as a process. And so now you can again expand that further in terms of when you think about newer technologies like artificial intelligence. And because a few years ago, the potential of artificial intelligence was still a possibility. Now, in the last few years, because of the advances that we have made in artificial intelligence, it's starting to become a reality. And the reason is because we've been able to marry physics with AI to solve outcomes. And again, now, if you bring it back to the piece we talked about earlier on the collaborative nature for innovation, this is another area that companies and solution providers will be co-developing solutions with their customer partners to deliver outcomes. And I can talk again, for example, we've got a suite of enterprise solutions called Cordant, and we are partnering with BP to reduce their maintenance costs by up to 20% and enable production deferrals by up to 10%. These are massive numbers, and it's only achievable by targeted collaborative efforts that we are doing with our customer partners. So Gail, big things going on in terms of the process of innovation and going from more of a transactional approach towards a collaborative approach, and all of that bodes extremely well for the future.
Gail, can I chip in? So I think I just wanted to highlight a couple of comments the fellow panelists have made. I think Haresh makes a very interesting comment about, the partnerships. Today, the challenge that we are facing, let's talk about decarbonization of the climate crisis. The problem is too large, massive for one company, any one company or any one country to solve, right? Unless we work on it together, it's going to be almost impossible to be able to solve this problem. Whether you're a small player, if you have an innovative idea, a larger company can help you implement that, absolutely we should work together. So I think this is one very interesting position we find ourselves, globally, that partnerships are going to be almost a must, right? We as SLB have a solution when it comes to, and I'll take the example of digital again. However, we recognize that we can't solve all the problems our customers have. But we have an ecosystem of 25 plus partners already. If we can't solve the problem, the complementary skills of our partners together should be able to address most of the problems that the customers are facing today. And I'll bring up the comment from Ganesh. He makes a comment about, and he says, you are collaborating and co-developing with your customers. In fact, there is a phrase that is commonly used now called co-opetition. So you are a competitor for me. I cooperate with you in one part and I compete with you the other part, or frenemies. We are friends here, but we'll compete with each other on the other side. So the point again is that the world is at a transition. The challenges we are facing are unprecedented, and therefore it will require unprecedented collaboration and partnership to be able to address the challenge we face.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the beauty of having an ecosystem that is fully activated. And question for you, Ghanshyam, on that, which is, we say that the ecosystem is here to accelerate or multiply the effect of innovation. But according to you, how much innovation should we expect from within? How much innovation should we expect from the ecosystem? And how do we make sure that we connect the dots? I mean, what's the role of the flows of money, of capital? What's the role of partnerships in R&D? What's the role of academia? So how do we make sure that we bring all these bubbles in coordination?
Before answering this question, let me add, I think, what Ganesh and his talk about. I will give an example of actually innovation and commercialization of sustainable aviation fuel. I think it is a similar example of partnership in Praj. So we have a collaboration, technical collaboration with Geo, an US company. They have a microbe which is actually they have tested, validated on local feedstock, which is yellow 2D corn. Especially in the US, they use corn as a starchy feedstock there. But when it came to commercialization in India, there was a discussion between both the organizations how we can really take it in India, right? I think that's a very good bug which can actually convert this industrial waste, which is molasses, into value-added product, which is isobutanol. Now, isobutanol is a big brother of ethanol, and today for sustainable aviation fuel, we are working with them to really make this SAF affordable with low CI. The advantage of higher alcohol content or the higher carbon really helps in basically minimizing the energy content and capex and so on and so forth. So partnership is very, very critical. At the same time, when we are talking about reduction of carbon intensity in the US market, we are helping Geo, our collaborator there, to reduce their carbon intensity of existing corn-based ethanol plants in USA. So there, we are actually introducing the multiple technologies like mechanical vapor recompression, which we talk about energy integration, part of energy integration technique. We are also actually helping them to set up a biomethanation plants for actually recycle of energy back into the process. So it's a mutual collaboration. I think this is an example of innovation and mutual collaboration where we take the best of the other world which are happening outside India, and also we export our technology outside to them so that it becomes mutual benefit to each other, right? That's another example of mutual collaboration as a part of innovation. Now coming back to specific your question, what is the role of the small timers or the new incumbents or the new entrepreneurs? It's very, very important, and all of you know the innovation is not limited to larger organizations. In fact, it's our belief and understanding most of the innovation happens in the smaller organizations. The reasons are plenty of reasons. Because of the agility, for innovation what you require is the agility in working. Many times in smaller organizations there is no fear of failure, which is a very, very critical piece or element of innovation. Third important, they are highly energetic. I would say whenever they talk about new idea, there is a lot of excitement and energy within the organization. And they are the most important, they are not bound by any systems and procedures. Large organizations, because they are liable definitely for the public at large or for statutory requirements, they are bound by rules, regulations and systems, whereas smaller organizations, their agility, their ability to learn and de-learn is much, much higher, and therefore it is always better to have collaboration between smaller organizations and larger organizations. Whereas larger organizations have advantage because they have muscle power in terms of finance. The financial muscle power is very, very important. They can actually offer the technical capability building skills to the lower, smaller organizations. They can help or set up R&D, because in our field of area where we produce biofuels, the setting up a pilot plant is very expensive, especially for smaller organizations. So larger organizations, if they can help a common R&D facility or training facility, it would be very important, a very helping hand for the smaller. So as an ecosystem, the role of both the smaller organizations or newcomers or entrepreneurs is equally important, or in fact more important than the larger organizations. Larger organizations have capability to scale up product quickly rather than smaller. So if both the organizations work together, it's easy to really, or it is quick to commercialize new technologies or innovation to market. So it's very important to have this ecosystem existing, and we are doing it. For example, in India, we are Pune-based company, so we are using local partners, whether it's the R&D institutes. There are a lot of R&D institutes in India, whether it's the CSR labs or something, we are taking help of them. A lot of innovations are happening at their end. We are also supporting and helping actually these institutes. For example, academic IIT, we are actually providing them grant to develop basic sciences like bioscience. We are also helping IICT in Mumbai to really do some research in the polymer science. Our objective is, because of these collaborative efforts, we should be able to really take these products. The important, I will give an example of this biopolymer. Other than biofuels, today the most other nuisance for the world is disposal of plastics, right? The whole sea, I think we know, I think that problem is being very critically talked about everywhere. Now in our R&D center, with the help of an IICT and other institutes, we have actually developed a biopolymer which is called as polyhydroxyalkonates, which is actually renewable polymer. which is biodegradable, biocompostable, and soon you must have heard the news also, we have also set up a pilot facility which is under commissioning. Next month it will be commissioned. So this kind of a systems with the collaborative efforts, we should be able to quickly commercialize these new products, otherwise it would take a much longer time. So today we have developed right from ethanol, gone to sustainable aviation fuel. On the material side, we have actually developed this renewable plastic. So collaborative helps in basically squeezing the time frame and making it more effective in a sense.
Thank you very much. And you have all mentioned the partnerships, ecosystem, R&D. We spoke about academia. I'd like to drill down on the role of one of the specific stakeholders, which is government or government entities, be it in delivering part of what has to be delivered in this ecosystem, or being an enabler. So Ganesh, if you don't mind, what are the perspectives that you have on the role that could government bodies play in accelerating, enabling the ecosystem of innovation?
Absolutely, Gail. If you think about, at the end of the day, in order to have success in the whole energy transition game, we believe that it has to have the confluence of three things need to happen. And the three things are, you need to have the right technology, you need to have the right economics, and you need to have the right policy. It's all three. You can have the greatest policy in the world, but if you don't have the technology or the economics, it's not going to work. And the same way, you can have great technology, but if the other two are not in place, it's not going to work. So policy is an important element, one of the three legs of the triad that are needed to make the transition happen, and government obviously has a role to play in terms of setting policy. Now, if you think about the hallmarks of what a good policy framework would be, it has to have three things. One is it has to spur innovation, it has to be technology agnostic, and it also has to be done in a way that it streamlines the process so that it drives efficiency and without a lot of bureaucracy and so on. And those obviously have to be revisited over time. So, and you can think of multiple examples, especially in the last few years. If you look at the United States, the Inflation Reduction Act has been an example, a clear example on how innovations and the economics, hopefully at some point in time soon, on hydrogen, for example, would spur up. Similar innovations on carbon capture, carbon credits and so on. The EU is not far behind in terms of coming up with their own set of regulations and policy frameworks. The Middle East is doing the same thing. So all in all, it bodes very well, because when you view policy development in conjunction with everything that's happening in industry on technology, as well as the economics that go with it, you are actually getting the confluence of these three factors, which are going to be the ingredients in driving the transition.
Just to add what Ganesh said, just one extra point. What we really need, and that's how human mind works, that unless there is a target, unless there is a reason, we will be the lazy race on the planet. So there has to be enough reason and enough motivation. So what I believe is, what government can do in consultation with the academia and in consultation with the industry, they should set the target and a roadmap what we want to achieve. And to achieve that, let's say if there are some conducive environment conditions needed, yes, that needs to be provided. But the most important factor is there should be a target. There has to be, just to give a very quick example, I started working in 2008 in the EV world. The battery pricing was $1,200 per kilowatt hour is what we were importing from US, and we were at a mercy of supplier that whether they want to sell it to us or not, even at $1,200 per kilowatt hour. And when the industry put a target to it, and today industry talks about below $100 per kilowatt hour by 2025, and we are actually going to achieve it. The same thing, for example, UK government talked about a UK automotive plan. They talked about a 5 kilowatt per kg. And it was hardly 1 or 2 kilowatt per kg, and today they are reaching 5 to 7 kg per 5 to 7 kilowatt per kg. So that way, if you see, so whether it is academia, whether it is industry, they will have a motivation. So in my opinion, what government really needs is, yes, there has to be an audacious but achievable target, and that's the reason I said it needs to be defined in consultation with academia and with industry.
And I like that you brought the examples of the US and the UK, because my question to you, Rakesh, is, I mean, Schlumberger, you're SLB, you're a global player. You have innovation centers all around the globe. If you had to build a new one today, where would you build it and why?
So one, we are sitting in India. Two, I am an Indian. Three, this is the happening place. So the short answer and a simple answer is, most innovation should be happening in India. But jokes apart, I would put it like this, right? We have a very simple philosophy that we've applied for many, many decades, which is we recruit where we work. And I think to one of my fellow panelists who said earlier that, you cannot leave innovation to the scientists. Any company that is, doing that is basically heading itself to not be very successful in the long run. So the idea still is, there is no copyright to intelligence is what we firmly believe in. We recruit wherever we work. So we've been recruiting in India for decades. Many Indians have done exceptionally well in the company and, contributed to the success of the company. And so have many other nationalities. We know about the importance of Guyana going forward. If there were companies and, organizations that have Guyanese in them, they will certainly benefit as, Guyana plays a larger role in the oil and gas business going forward. So I think you must make sure that all parts of the organization, not just the scientific community, has a way to be able to contribute to the innovation. And the second comment I would make is you must also make sure that you have accessibility and possibility for any part of the organization to be able to contribute to the innovation, right? If you think about up until a few decades, I would say, you had a certain part or a certain part of the year where you would be able to give your new ideas. We are basically saying somebody who's joined the company, the average age of, Haresh's company is 28. If there is a person who's joining us, he's just a grad and he comes up with an idea, he or she should have the opportunity to be able to, make herself heard or himself heard. And I think, more and more companies who are able to provide that environment will set themselves up for success. We still believe, and we have innovation centers pretty much around the globe. Most companies and countries that we work with as partners or, geographies we work in, we are able to. There are always some benefits, some work out in the long run, some others, we have to revisit. But we have to be, shall I say, dynamic about that decision presently. There are certain hotspots, service sector, the IT world, the digital dynamism that India provides. For most companies, I would say India would certainly be on top of the list when it comes to, possible innovation centers in the future.
Okay, thanks. You two times you brought Rakesh the topic of innovation being in the DNA of your company. Now, Haresh, question to you. It's a question about culture, company culture. Where should be innovation in the company? Should it be in the brain of each employee, or should we have some areas in the company that are safe from innovation because we want to preserve some continuity, or what's your view there?
So I think the world is not binary, right? So there are 50 shades of gray. What we really need is, it's a fine walk. You cannot say that I have to have a very, very rigid organization which follows every rule, and every law. Sorry, that's a wrong word. So every rule from the company rule book, basically. Or you cannot also say that you are letting people free and let them do what they want to do. As you correctly said, you cannot let the scientists run the organization, otherwise the product would never come out. So there has to be a very good balance in how you do it. Now, typically the way this is done in most of the organization is, you have one branch or one, let's say, subgroup, I would call it, who are given this free hand. Let's say they are these mad scientists. They have given a complete playground to play and color, the canvas is open to them and you are not restricting them. That way you are also giving a signal in the organization that you are open for innovation. But at the same time, you also have another fraction which has been given a very crystal clear mind, let's say a roadmap that this is what we want, because we have to also feed the innovation, but for that to feed that innovation, we have to also give some output. So to put the Eisenhower matrix in a different context, what I would say that if we talk about the urgent and important zone, now urgent and important zone is something which puts food on my plate basically in any organization, that these are the problem statement, this is what needs to be resolved and this needs to be resolved now, work on it. There is no flexibility. At the same time, you have a bigger time frame for another work wherein you are saying, guys, yes, come up with something new, come up with something better. You do have some flexibility. I am not curbing your innovation. So I believe how now this is to be done is also, many a time this has to be a top-down approach. What happens is you can bring the best people in the organization and they have all the skills needed. You also have processes required, but the question is, are they motivated enough? The skills and processes can define what they can do, but the motivation will define what they really do. So for this, the most important parameter, what I believe is, the organization from top down needs to give this message loud and clear that we stand for innovation. For example, in many organizations, if you see, the way the leadership would operate is to save a penny. We are losing a pound. So that should not be the case. Suppose I'm specifically again I'm quoting the EV examples because it's a very nascent industry. What happens is, this is a time period where we are putting money. It is more of a sinking money because we have to build the knowledge base. We have to make mistake. And from that mistake, we have to learn and come up with new solutions. At this stage, if my boss comes and tells me, no, we have to, keep a track of every single penny, and you cannot spend money on some subscription which might cost you 100,000 USD, that is not how it is going to work. So for innovation, in my opinion, first it has to be top driven. Then only we can talk about the crowdsourcing and all. So that is one part. I'm just checking if I am missing anything specific, but I believe this is how it has to be. That don't like put only one group. You have to segregate this into an urgent and important and a long-term solution. And in typical R&D, this is done is what we call pre-development research, which has nothing to do with series production and series R&D. And second one is a series R&D. So the research and development portion is actually split into one portion research and the other portion which is development. That's how it should be.
Can I add something here? So it's very difficult to define innovation, though there are many definitions of innovation on net and textbook. But innovation is nothing about the mindset. It is actually the culture of the organization. And most important, unless it is a part of your value of any organization, innovation will never happen. So on every walk of your life, if you are actually bound by innovation, and obviously the top management has to give freedom to the innovator. You can't just define rules and regulations and boundaries for any innovator. That's against his nature of any innovator. I'll give an example of Praj. Again, since I'm from Praj, I think I'm really tempted to give example. When we talk about innovation and we are passionate about all what we say is Atmanirbhar, right? I think our chairman always say why we should be dependent on other countries. Definitely we can take help, but when India has been blessed with such kind of sunshine and water and so many resources, we talk every day. Why not have our own innovation agenda, right? I think that's what is called as conviction of the organization that we can do it. I think when that kind of conviction would help you to really achieve that agenda. So what we did actually, we invested ourselves from our pocket without any government or money or funding, almost 200 crores in setting up world-class R&D. Because there is a brain, there are hands, there is a passion, there is a conviction. But unless you give that freedom and material machinery for the innovator to really fail themselves, actually freedom to failure is one of the critical component of success of innovation. So allow people to fail, and failure is definitely an important step towards the innovation. It gives you a lot of insight. And I can give you an example. I think when we talk about this new innovation which we develop, the latest one is about sustainable. I'm just giving the same example. When we talk about sustainable aviation fuel, we actually went to the basics. What is this aviation fuel all about? What we need to do we have capabilities? All those kind of, but generally capabilities are available. It is the mindset which is very, very important. So actually in R&D, right from the flask level, we actually developed sustainable aviation fuel in our R&D. The next target was to test it on ASTM, IS, all those kind of. So we actually developed facility to test it, which was not available in India. We also got it certified from outside India just to check whether our workings are correct. Next level is that actually we delivered to another airline, Indian airline. We had a dialogue with them. We got all the permissions from DGCA and all those kind of statutory appointment. And finally, the target was given on a specific day. We should have our own jet fuel, which would fly aircraft, and we did from Pune to Delhi that flying of aircraft. And that is what happens. If there is a passion, there is a conviction, there is a support from the top management, what he rightly said, and there is a full support in terms of infrastructure, things can be done. And going beyond this, we also set up a full-scale, now end-to-end R&D or pilot plant to produce SAF fuel today. And I'm sure this will be now available for India. And coming back to this policy already in place, that 1% blend by 2028, sure, I think. So this is an example where if there is a vision, there is a clarity, there is a freedom, there is a conviction, and there is a definitely support from the management, you can deliver what is there. So I think that's a very, very critical, important piece of today's organization.
Yeah. Very clear. Thank you very much. We are coming to, I'm sorry, but to the closing question. We are today in Goa in India Energy Week. We have been discussing about innovation and the fact that innovation is about setting up an ecosystem that will make you successful. Energy world is a global world. Innovation is partly global, partly regional. The question to each of you panelists, and I would like you to take just 1 minute to answer to the question, is how do you see India positioned in the coming innovation global ecosystem? What are the one or two pillars that make you believe that India is strongly positioned? And what are potentially the one or two areas where you think there could be a bit of attention given to make sure that the country is ready for the challenges to come? So 1 minute each, if we can start with you, Ghanshyam.
Yeah, I think it's a very valid question, and really I'm tempted to again come out here with that Atmanirbhar. Always our belief is that India blessed with so much of abundance of biomass. We being an agrarian country, our resources are actually lying on the field, idling, what we call as the waste and so forth. But today it is waste, but I'm sure it will not be waste going forward. So as an organization, definitely would like to build a complete innovation ecosystem around agri residue or agri feedstock because that's where actually the difference between probably Western countries and Indian countries, because every country has a different feedstock to work on, to innovate with. India is blessed with biomass, so our belief is that, and biomass has all the elements which are required for whether it is fuel or biomaterials. It has a carbon, it has nitrogen, it has hydrogen, it has a sulfur, you name it. Everything is available in the biomass, which is actually a natural resource. So our job or organization is actually engaged, and actually what we want to deliver is basically biomass-based complete ecosystem, and that would be what we call as a biorefinery to the world. So we would be setting up a real biorefinery, and as a part of this energy transition at IEW, the biorefinery would be a good example which would be coming from India to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Gail, India today is the 5th largest economy in the world, and by the end of the decade, it's projected to be the 3rd largest economy in the world. It's already the most populated country on the planet. 1 in 7 people on the planet are Indian. That's the size of the population. So when you look at the country, how India plays the energy transition in the coming decades is going to be a big factor, perhaps the biggest factor in the planet's goals of achieving energy transition, because you have a young demographic and which has got tremendous growth prospects, which will make the country extremely energy hungry, and it has to be done in a way that is sustainable. So you have the power of demographics, the power of growth, the ability to innovate, especially lower cost innovation. All of that are, I would say, strengths that in some of them are already there, some of them yet to be unraveled in India. And India could very well become an example to many other developing countries on how to navigate the transition for the rest of the century.
Thank you.
So I think I would give a different tack, start with the India Energy Week. And my compliments to the organizers, because, the world is living the energy transition. This is one place, one of the conferences where the entire energy spectrum, participates. So we are talking about renewable energy, we're talking about oil and gas, and all the other forms of energy that are going to play a very critical role. So I think India Energy Week actually is a confluence on all of that. So I think it's a very good forum for us to be able to, come together. The second, as Ganesh points out, we are probably going to drive the demand, a significant portion of the demand growth in the world. And with the self-sufficient direction that the government has set, the Atmanirbhar Bharat concept, we are going to drive the direction, significant portion of the direction of the renewable powers. The growth that we are seeing in the country will probably be a critical part of the total innovation that is going to take place as we live the energy transition. So I'm confident with the innovation, with the educated labor force that is now available in India, and the demand growth, India will have to play a significant role in coming up with the energy transition solution for the world.
Thank you very much.
So, as we said earlier, very quickly, 3 components. What you need is the motivation, what you need is the process and the skill set to do it. Now, India never had the lack of skill set. In fact, we had a brain drain. So, the question is, has motivation been changed or not? And that's the biggest question. So, as per my understanding, looking at the government's target, looking at the industry's need, and looking at the convergence of multiple technologies to come up with this solution is so ripe that there is a need. The part is taken care, skill was already there, and because of this, the growing economy what we represent, we will also have the extrinsic motivation provided to these the skilled people as well. So I won't able to put a number to it, but the trend is definitely that we would have a very high amount of innovation, whether it is the energy field or not.
Thank you very much. So Haresh, Rakesh, Ganesh, and Ghanshyam, thank you very much for sharing your experience and perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.